Największe gry, które mają jeszcze wyjść w 2024 roku. Zobaczymy, jakie większe premierki nam prezentuje nie kto inny jak IGN.
Why hello there! If that distinctive pumpkin spice aroma and abundance of skeleton decor wasn't a dead giveaway, fall is upon us. While the year might be almost over, there are still a ton of video games waiting to be released, so here are 2024's biggest video game releases,
No
the
zobaczmy.
Fall Update.
Zobaczmy, jak ten 24 rok się zapowiada.
We do a video like this for basically every month's video game releases, but considering we're trying to jam an entire fiscal quarter into this one, we are going to really prop ourselves up with that biggest in the headlines, so be forewarned, this is a lot of the games coming out, but not all of them. If you want a more comprehensive lineup, check out our monthly videos, but here is what's up.
Już tą Zeldę widzę, moi drodzy, to będzie gra roku, nie? Tak tylko wam mówię, bo to Zelda, więc musi mieć grę roku.
September is already well underway, and hopefully you're already playing Astro Bot on PS5. If you already got that platinum and you need a little more charming whimsy, on the 17th, The Plucky Squire hits PS5, as well as Xbox Series, PC, and Switch. That'll have you hopping between dimensions in the literal spatial sense, but also losing yourself in a book or two. Looks cute. On the 17th, Pharaoh, The Sundered Tribes comes to early access on PC, which seems like it might appeal to Monster Hunter fans, largely because
Wygląda jak taki Xenoblade trochę, kurde?
the monsters, but also because of the fact that you hunt them. But it's also got some lofty ambitions with aerial traversal, and
W ogóle wygląda jak gra na Switcha, a nie na PC-ta.
still keeps things grounded with village management, among other cool features. That's coming to consoles later on. On the 19th, Dead Rising Deluxe Remastered gives Capcom's second favorite zombie series a makeover. Not a full remake, but a considerable step up from your average HD upres. That's on new gen and PC.
To się
A
ludziom
few
może
days later, on the
spodobać.
24th, Epic Mickey Rebrushed gives the 2010 Wii game a similar overhaul. This has Disney's most famous rodent teaming up with the slightly lesser known but luckier rabbit Oswald for some magical
To czuję, że to jest gra typu za pół godziny mi się znudzi, nie?
adventures. Usually, PC gamers are the only ones who can play games with a mouse, but that's not the case here. This game is coming to PC as well as everything with a controller. Yeah, that was like a mouse joke.
Mega stary.
Like with the mouse and the keyboard.
Tragedia.
I'm sorry. Greedfall 2, The Dying World will presumably be coming to consoles at some point, but PC players get to take it for a spin a little bit early when it hits early access.
To będzie totalny średniak ten Greedfall. Wszystko na to wskazuje. Każdy możliwy gameplay i trailer tej gry pokazywał, że no to będzie gierka zrobiona, żeby była, a niekoniecznie ma jakąś głębię w tym.
On the 24th as well. This follow-up to the 2019 action RPG can be approached as a standalone story and looks to be a substantially different experience, swapping out the fast-paced Souls-ish combat of the first game for a more tactical Dragon Age Origins-inspired battle system. On the 26th, Echoes of Wisdom hits Switch, which means it's time for the denizens of Hyrule to say, well, excuse me, princess, for a change as Princess Zelda wreaks havoc.
No to jest kolejna gra z tych, o których nie będziesz mógł się negatywnie wypowiadać, bo to Zelda, więc ma dziesiątki milionów fanów na całym świecie, nieważne co by zrobili.
On the land, doing all sorts of wacky like smashing pots and doing magical things with furniture and other cumbersome household objects in an effort to save that bumbling, toe-headed layabout Link who got kidnapped this time for a change.
Zrobili grę o Zeldzie, a nie o Linku w końcu. I co robi Zelda? Kraftuje meble. Aha.
Love that between this game and Princess Peach Showtime, 2024 is the year where Nintendo finally bucked their tradition of having princesses needing to be rescued. Good for them. If you'd rather just fight large voxelated bugs with your bros than do magical princess stuff, don't worry, you can do exactly that in Earth Defense Force World Brothers 2 on both PlayStations and Switch. If you'd rather fight more realistic space creatures, among other things, on other planets, Starfield gets its first major expansion with the Shattered Space DLC, which hits Xbox Series and PC.
Wszyscy nie mogą się doczekać Starfieldowego dodatku. Oj tak, całe 50 osób kochających Starfielda.
On the 30th.
Czy to nie było tak, że w Starfieldzie po roku dodano samochód? Zobaczmy co w październiku.
In October, spooky season shifts into high gear, and on the 8th, you could dig through the ditches and burn through the witches and slam in the
Mega. Tylko że granie w Diablo w październiku nie ma sensu, bo lepiej poczekać miesiąc i zagrać w PoE 2.
back of Diablo 4's big expansion, Vessel of Hatred, which is on the Xboxes, the PlayStations, and the PC. What is the most hateful vessel? I'm gonna go with one of those Canadian milk bags, or perhaps that redesigned Gatorade bottle that costs the same but holds less, all in the name of aerodynamics. I never realized that wind resistance was preventing me from getting hydrated faster, but what do I know? I'm no athlete or scientist. What am I good for? Not much. Anyway.
Nie mam pojęcia, czy on właśnie próbował być śmieszny, czy co on mówił, nie? A rozumiem angielski. Nieźle.
Speaking of hateful
O, w
aerodynamic
to będziemy
things that
grać. W to będziemy grać i będziemy grać też w oryginalny Silent Hill 2, także będzie ciekawie. Już mam na kompie nawet pobrane.
same day you can reunite with Pyramid Head and company when the Silent Hill 2 remake hits PS5 and PC. Did you know in Japan he's referred to as Red Pyramid Thing? Doesn't have the same ring to it. It just sounds like somebody forgot what parking cones are called.
Ah, that went well.
If you like weird-ass monster designs and bizarre names for things, but don't like being
To z
frightened on the
twórców
11th,
Persony, nie?
Metaphor Refantazio has you covered on both counts, unless you're a huge chicken. This is the latest RPG from the folks behind Persona and Shin Megami Tensei, and this time they are going full fantasy.
Ogólnie widziałem jakieś wstępne opinie tej gry na Twitterze. Ludzi, którzy byli zaangażowani w testowanie tego produktu. I ponoć jest dojebane, ale kurde, wygląda tak, nie wiem, strasznie typowo, jakby po prostu skopiowali Personę i stworzyli coś nowego, ale no ponoć jest super.
A bunch of the enemy designs are pulled straight from the medieval menagerie of Flemish painter Hieronymus Bosch.
Wygląda jak na Switcha, no, a nie wychodzi na Switcha, to jest najdziwniejsze, ale wygląda totalnie jak na Switcha.
So this looks like a regular garden of otherworldly delights. That's on both PlayStation's Xbox Series and PC. Still on the 11th, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero hits PS5, Xbox Series, and PC, and don't be fooled by the title sounding like a diet soda. This is for all intents and purposes Budokai Tenkaichi 4. It's been 17 years since the last installment, so it's safe to say that the hype levels for this game are, well...
It's over 9,000! What? 9,000?
Dragon Ball na pewno znajdzie swoich odbiorców, nie? Nieważne, to jest trochę jak Zelda, nieważne co by z Dragon Ballem zrobiono, to znajdą się ludzie, którzy są chętni to przetestować.
Not less than 9,000, let's put it that way. If Silent Hill was too loud and you wish everyone would shut the hell up so you can be scared in peace, well, make some noise for A Quiet Place: The Road Ahead on the 17th. This is a single-player, narrative survival horror game set in the universe of the hit movie franchise.
Ty, może ja powinienem kurde sobie w to zagrać? To nie jest głupi pomysł. No?
Obviously, it's going to involve a fair amount of stealth, but an interesting wrinkle is that the protagonist has asthma, so trying to speedrun this may wind up
O Jezu, ale to będzie wkurzające.
blowing your cover. That's on new gen and PC. Arguably an even more harrowing survival
Nie, dla tych, co nie usłyszeli, bohater ma astmę, no zajebiście będzie się zapalało po survival horrorku na pewno. Jeszcze pewnie przez cały playthrough będziesz słyszał dyszenie. Super.
wind up blowing your cover. That's on new gen
Ale
and
przynajmniej mamy inclusivity dla osób z astmą.
PC. Arguably an even more harrowing survival horror experience releasing that day is Super Mario Party Jamboree, which features 110 minigames and 7 boards, the most of any installment in this insufferable,
Super Mario Party, jedna z fajniejszych gier z uniwersum, nie ironicznie.
unkillable
To
franchise.
jest jedna z najlepszych, powiedziałbym, takich prób przeniesienia planszówkowego vibe'u do konsolowego świata. Zajebiste to jest.
I take back what I said about Nintendo being progressive. I think it would be in everyone's best interest if there were less minigames in each new Mario Party, and ideally by now, there should be none at all.
In an insane world, it is the same who's called crazy.
That's my ideal Mario Party game. You don't have to do any stupid bull or roll any fake dice to watch the characters take their sweet-ass time going around the fake board, or ruin any friendships with cruel and unusual scoring systems that make no sense whatsoever.
Please, we are depressed enough.
You turn the game on, and you see these beloved characters, they just stand around doing nothing. That's the game right there. Look, I'm sorry if you enjoy Mario Party, but if you can find pleasure in such a tedious and infuriating experience, you clearly have an unassailably positive outlook on life, and I think you're gonna get through it just fine.
The only hope is the sweet relief of death.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
Anyway, on the 18th, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutants Unleashed is our first proper video game tie-in for that latest iteration of those Heroes in a Half show that were introduced in Mutant Mayhem. This
Kurde, oglądałem Żółwie za dzieciaka. Fajne były.
is a budget-priced licensed game dropping just in time for the holidays, so I'm not expecting Game of the Year material, but if it's a decent and playable little adventure set in that universe, that could be a bunch of fun. Plus, it's got 2-player couch co-op, which is definitely something to say co-op bunga about. That's coming to everything. And I'm sorry about earlier when I said co-op bunga. Nobody needs to hear that series of syllables put together in that order. Even less of a known quantity is the aptly titled Unknown 9 Awakening, a third-person action adventure that'll have you playing as a psychically endowed heroine named Haruna, played by Anya Chalotra, best known as Yennefer of Vengerberg.
Powiem wam tak. 100 osób na Steamie na premierę.
From the Witcher Netflix show. It sounds like you can do some cool supernatural stuff like possess enemies during combat. And hey, if you're into lore, it's also got a comic book, a trilogy of novels, and a scripted podcast. So now you know. That's on PC, the Xboxes, and the PlayStations. On October 25th, you can go trick-or-treating at Saddam Hussein's house. I can't even say it.
Co ty gadasz, kur...
A war just broke out up on Earth.
To Call of Duty Black Ops 6, and if you haven't been keeping track, this year's installment of the beloved shooter sets its literal and figurative sights on the Gulf War. If you'd rather cause some mischief in multiplayer, a newly introduced feature is the ability to take other players hostage, using them as human shields and whispering stuff in their ears via proximity-based voice chat. I'm sure everyone will utilize that feature in a respectful and sportsmanlike fashion. What could possibly go wrong? That's on everything but Switch. Sorry kids, if you want to go to Saddam
Call
Hussein...
of Duty, które za rok zostanie zastąpione nowym Call of Duty. No ale spoko, nie? Jakby akurat to jest jedno z tych Call of Duty, które patrząc na trailer i widząc tam Clintona, Busha i w ogóle wszystko związane właśnie z okolicami końca lat 90. i 9/11, no to powiem szczerze, nawet kuszące do zagrania jest, ale nie wiem.
Hussein's house on Switch, you gotta build it in Minecraft first.
Ladies and gentlemen,
We got him.
we got him.
Shadowy government conspiracies are great and all, but what about shadowy private sector hedgehogs?
Aż mi się przypomniało. Pamiętam, jak Trump dawał przemówienie, jak był prezydentem, jak złapali szefa ISIS. I on tak: Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi został zabity jak pies. Nachiliśmy mu. Dosłownie tak powiedział. Generalnie oglądałem te akcje. Normalnie ludzie weszliby przez drzwi, ale nie nasi żołnierze. Nasi żołnierze wysadzili mu ściany. Świetni żołnierze, świetne ściany. Wiedział, nie wymyśliłem sobie tego, czekaj.
He will never again harm another innocent man, woman, or child. He died like a dog. He died like a coward.
Shadowy government conspiracies are great and all, but what about shadowy private sector hedgehogs? Well, Sonic can get down with his worst self in Sonic Shadow Generations that day as well, just in time to get hyped for his big screen debut in the third live-action Sonic movie, hitting theaters in December.
Yo,
On the
nowy
29th, Life
Sonic.
is Strange gets its
Wow, nowe Life is Strange z tygodniem, czy tam 2 tygodniami early accessu, ale super.
fourth mainline installment with double exposure, which will see original protagonist Max Caulfield returning for more supernatural adventures, and this time around she'll be swapping between alternate timelines to solve a mystery. That's on new gen Switch and PC. Finally, on Halloween proper, Dragon Age Veilguard hits new gen and PC.
O, w to też musimy zagrać i sprawdzić, jak Assassin's Creed'a, ale będzie gówno.
And if you're a Dragon Age fan, you know what's up. And if you're not, well, what's been stopping you from getting into this series? Aside from BioWare not making a new game in a literal Dragon's Age, assuming that the dragon is 10 years old. Anybody hoping that Veilguard is a good starting point for newcomers? It is theoretically possible, but it's also being positioned as a direct sequel to not just 2014's base game Dragon Age Inquisition, but specifically
Oni dosłownie zrobili tak: zróbmy Dragon Age'a, ale sprawmy, że średnia wieku graczy spadnie o 15 lat. Tak wygląda ta gra właśnie.
it's Trespasser DLC, so you may want to watch some lore explainers if this is your first Dragon Age rodeo. A couple games have loose October release windows, but no specific date as of shooting this video. Batman Arkham Shadow is exclusively coming to MetaQuest.
O, i nowa gra z uniwersum Batmana po dobrych 10 latach i wychodzi na MetaQuesta, k***a, u Marka Zuckerberga. I na nic innego. X, k***a D.
3, and I know a lot of people are bummed it's not a conventional Arkham game, but everybody I know who's played this had really good things to say about it, so maybe a reason to check out a MetaQuest 3 if that seems like your cup of tea. Meanwhile, Poker DLC for a fishing game sounds like the most boring thing imaginable unless you're like really a dad, except if it's Balatro DLC for Dave the Diver. I have no idea how this works exactly, but I imagine it involves all hands on deck, maybe watching out for some card sharks.
Oho. Oho.
Speaking of boats, Mario and Luigi fans can set sail on the Brothership on November 7th.
Mamma mia.
The 6th mainline installment in the RPG series centered around those fraternal plumbers with mustaches. That's on Switch. That same day, River City Saga 3 Kingdoms Next sees hot-blooded tough guy Kunio-kun continue his adventures in the 14th century Han Dynasty, practicing the art of war, making strategic political gambits, and probably punching some random dude so hard that he shouts barf and drops his lunch money. That's on PS4, Switch, and PC.
I ta gra i tak będzie miała więcej graczy niż Concord.
November 7th is the release date of the PS5 Pro as well, which certainly looks like the most cutting edge and exciting way to play all of the latest next-gen games that...
Dobra, IGN takie głupoty w tych materiałach. Oni naprawdę pozbyli się czegoś takiego jak opiniotwórczość. Pozbyli się. Wszystkiemu i każdemu liżą kurwa jaja. Ja nie wierzę w to.
already looked pretty good on your base PS5 and are also probably available on PS4. Maybe one of these days Sony will reveal some exclusive first-party games that truly justify and take advantage of a new PlayStation, but something tells me that this isn't a must-have console just quite yet.
O, sorry, kurwa, zostałem wyjaśniony. Powiedział, że konsola nie jest must have'em, wow.
Unless you have $700 in particular that you hate and you want to get rid of it somehow. In which case, that's probably a good way to spend that money, maybe. I don't know. You can buy something else too. On the 14th, Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake
Ej, w to bym zagrał. Nie wiem czemu. Jakoś tak klasyczny vibik, nie?
kicks up the 3D3 in the beloved JRPG that debuted way back in 1988. If you're wondering how you missed the first two HD 2D remakes, don't worry, it's not you. Those are slated for release sometime next year, but 3 takes place before 1 and 2 chronologically, so this is as good a starting point as any. That's on PS5, Xbox Series, Switch, and PC. On the 15th, Assassin's Creed Shadows lets you jump into the Tabi boots of dual protagonists Naoki and Yusuke as they slice and dice their way through feudal Japan. People have been asking for an Assassin's Creed game with ninjas and samurai since day one, but apparently the idea of a black protagonist in Japan is a deal breaker for some folks, despite the fact that Yusuke is the first AC protagonist actually based on a historical figure. And hey, I get it. Historical accuracy is super duper important in a series of video games that started out being about a bartender time traveling into his ancestors' DNA using a VR tanning bed to do parkour and fight the Pope and steal alien technology shaped like biblical fruit or something.
Czy on właśnie sprowadził całe bycie gównianym produktem od Ubisoftu do tego, że w sumie no nie musi być poprawny historycznie? Kurwa, ziomek.
Along those lines. Anyway, Shadows is on new gen and PC. If you want a samurai game where you play as a Japanese dude, they put out like 2 or 3 of those a year, and if this isn't your ideal Assassin's Creed game, well, sit tight because they put out a new one of those practically every year, so
No fajnie, że nawet z tych najlepszych klatek, które chcieli pokazać, ten efekt tutaj krwi, uwaga, czekaj, o, zobacz jak to zajebiście wygląda.
Practically every year, so about this time next year, you're probably going to be a 17th century witch doing parkour and turning into cats and fighting old German dudes or something along those lines. On the 15th, Path of Exile 2 enters early access on PS5, Xbox Series, Mac, and PC, and the first installment has drawn its fair share of die-hard fans since it hit PC way back in 2013, so I imagine quite a few people have cleared a path in their schedules to exile themselves from all other responsibilities to focus on this sequel. On November 19th, you can experience all of the chaos and panic of holiday air travel from the comfort of your own home in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, but you can also do way more interesting stuff, and this year's standalone installment is also getting hot air balloons, tornadoes, wildfires, aerial firefighting to put out said wildfires, skydiving just for the hell of it, little tiny gliders, big ginormous jumbo cargo planes, experimental aircraft testing, and a bunch more features. Plus, virtually all the add-ons you might have purchased for the previous version will work with this one as well. This game was already one of the most impressive pieces of software ever made when it launched, and it's just flabbergasting how much more stuff has been added since then. That's on Xbox Series and PC. A day later, it's time to get in the zone for the long awaited Stalker 2 Heart
I w to będziemy grali. To może być zajebiste.
of Chernobyl, another sequel
Albo totalnie chujowe, bo nie wiem, nie jestem fanem wielkim shooterów, ale klimacik do mnie po prostu przemawia.
die-hard fans have been waiting well over a decade for, and which will likely attract its fair share of new players. It certainly looks stunning in action, and hopefully experiencing it for yourself is even better. That's also on Xbox Series and PC.
Indiana Jonesik, moi drodzy.
Things start to slow down a bit in December, but the year is going out with a couple of big bangs. On the 6th, Marvel Rivals officially launches on new gen and PC, which gives the tried and true and maybe a little tired hero shooter formula an injection of officially licensed and aggressively redesigned Marvel characters. Then on the 9th, you can see what's cracking with that fedorable whip-toting archaeologist Indiana Jones as he uncovers the mysteries of the Great Circle. That's on the great Xbox Series and the
Jezu, niech tu będą jakieś naprawdę fajne zagadki do rozwiązywania. Liczę na to, szczerze.
wonderful PC. It'll be coming to PS5 at some point next spring. It's not a game, but rather a show about games, so it's probably worth mentioning anyway. Secret Level is the CGI animated anthology series that premieres on Prime Video on December 10th. This is from some of the people who gave us Love, Death, and Robots, and who are also behind some of the most gorgeous CGI game trailers from E3's past. So if you ever wish that CGI trailers were just short films instead of commercials, here you go. Also on December 10th is Monument Valley 3, which will be coming exclusive Netflix games. I'm a little unclear where you'll actually be able to play it. It'll definitely be on mobile devices, and Netflix games work on certain streaming devices and smart TVs, but not all, so your compatibility may vary. The last game of the year with a release date is Alien Rogue Incursion, which is coming to VR by way of MetaQuest 3, PSVR 2, and PC VR on December 19th. It is a canonical action horror game set in that dismal xenomorph-infested universe, and while the obvious comparison is Alien Isolation, the odds will be slightly more in the player's favor this time around. You'll be playing as a former colonial marine, and you'll have a pulse rifle at your disposal, which packs a bit more punch than Isolation.
Kto gra na VR-ze? Kurde, powiem ci, widzu drogi, że no prawie nikt. Nie, no trzeba poczekać jeszcze dobre 10-20 lat, zanim ten VR będzie tak sensowny.
Of proverbial sharp sticks and harsh language.
Za wcześnie
A whole
jeszcze.
bunch of games have nebulous late 2024 release windows, which they may or may not actually hit, and it's entirely possible their release dates get confirmed between me saying this and you hearing it, but here's what's waiting in the wings. Squid Game Unleashed is another Netflix Games exclusive, which is a multiplayer
Gówno.
action game based on the hit series. Goat Simulator Remastered is exactly what it sounds like, and it's
spoko.
slated for new gen and PC. Lego Horizon Adventures lets Aloy brick some robot dinosaurs on PS5 as well as Switch and PC. The Wolf Among Us 2 is the long-awaited follow-up to one of
Spoko.
Telltale's best received
Ale w tym roku raczej tego nie będzie.
series published by the newly reformed Telltale Games and co-developed by Ad Hoc Studio, which was founded by a bunch of original Telltale vets. That's coming to everything whenever it comes out. 33 Immortals is the latest from the studio behind Spiritfarer and Jotun, and it's hitting early access sometime this year, which probably is a good idea since I imagine a 33-player co-op action roguelike could probably use some stress testing from the community. That's coming to PC and all the Xboxes. Arena Breakout Infinite is an Escape from Tarkov-like that is currently in early access for PC, and there's a full release allegedly happening sometime before the year is up. This is free to play, and players have taken some umbrage with some of its monetization practices, so hopefully they iron that out before 1.0 drops. Expected to hit PC early access sometime in 2024 is Delta Force, briefly retitled Delta Force Hawk Ops before dropping the subtitle last month. Whatever it's called, it's
Ja jestem takim ignorantem, dla mnie 90% tych gier strzelankowych wygląda tak samo, dosłownie.
got the potential to eat Battlefield's lunch, and really, it doesn't take much considering that EA's last installment was Battlefield 2042 3 years ago, which didn't so much stick the landing as it did fall flat on its ass, and on average, there are more people playing Battlefield 5 and Battlefield 1 these days than 2042, so curious to see how Delta Force performs. Finally, the other big Delta, hopefully leaving beta this
Jezu,
year,
mam nadzieję, że to jeszcze w tym roku wyjdzie. Tak się zhypowałem na tego Metal Gear Solida.
is Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, the fully overhauled remake of the arguably best overall game in the beloved tactical espionage series. This one sounded too good to be true, but early hands-on impressions sound really promising. Sounds like it's going to be more in line with Capcom's Resident Evil remakes than, well, the last time a Metal Gear game got a full remake.
Eat this!
And there you go. Like I said, this is not every single game still to come in 2024, but it's a bunch of them. And as I also said, please bear in mind that any of these dates can change last minute. If you want to stay on top of all the games coming out, check out IGN Playlist. It's a dedicated app that'll help you track your library, pile of shame, wish list, game of the year contenders, or whatever else, and it's shockingly comprehensive, so give that a whirl. If you like keeping tabs on what's coming out and when, and you don't find my flippant commentary and stupid hair insufferable, and you don't think it's that gross that I get gradually sweaty as the videos progress, keep an eye out for our monthly big game release videos around the start of each month. What are you dying to play in 2024? And dare I ask, what is in the running for Game of the Year? Let me know in the comments.
Grą
and I will
roku jest mój gameplay no hit w Dark Souls 1, który właśnie będzie miał miejsce. Idziemy.